All right, kids, it's time for accountability. That's the focus of tonight's angle. All right, Washington isn't just melting down over Trump's pick of Matt Gaetz for AG. Defenders of the military-industrial complex are also opposing Pete Hegseth, Trump's choice for Secretary of Defense.
He is the most unqualified candidate for this position in the history of America. This is very dangerous.
I'm not surprised that he picked a Fox News host rather than someone who is going to understand the seriousness of the moment. Our military has always been apolitical, nonpartisan patriots, not a political military.
This is exactly what we worried about and we warned about Donald Trump, which is that he is going to appoint unqualified loyalists to shape this government into his own personal fiefdom and get revenge on generals.
Well, what Democrats hope for, what they've become accustomed to, is a SecDef or Chairman of the Joint Chiefs who will be a bulwark against the president. That's why they love Mark Milley, who was the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs under Trump. Remember in testimony on Capitol Hill, he recounted a phone call he had after January 6th with Nancy Pelosi, during which she expressed concern about Trump's ability to launch a nuclear war.
She was concerned and made various personal references characterizing the president. I repeatedly assured her that there is no chance of an illegal, unauthorized, or accidental launch. By law, I am not in the chain of command, and I know that. I am in the chain of communication to fulfill my legal, statutory role as the president's primary military advisor.
Well, Milley was the establishment's best hope for Trump-proofing our defense policy. You could hear the condescension in his voice. This is why Hegseth worries them. Who'll be their stopgap now?
Trump's going for the Pentagon first because it's the Pentagon that stopped him last time, right? This is where Milley held the line. That's why he's going to the Pentagon and the defense industry first, because it's the most formidable resistance to what he wants to execute.
Of course, he said it. They want resistance. That's why they like people like Milley. These supposed defenders of norms and protocol, they've forgotten that the president, not the Secretary of Defense, is the commander-in-chief. The Pentagon chief's supposed to carry out the president's defense priorities, not disrupt them. Now, legitimate questions about a nominee's relevant experience, that's par for the course. That's one thing. But the argument that a nominee is not qualified because he's aligned with the president on policy is ludicrous, and that's going to fail. So if Democrats learn nothing here, they tried to stop Trump's reelection with these types of generic, hyperbolic attacks for the past 3 years. Well, really, the past 9 years. How did that work out for them? And let's face it, the Pentagon needs major reform. It's lurched from one disaster after another, from the Iraq War to the Afghanistan War to the deadly pullout from Afghanistan. Now, it goes without saying that we love our troops, their selfless service, their patriotism. But it is a sad fact that our military leadership, the Pentagon bureaucracy, and decades upon decades of failure, that has put us in a dangerous and compromised situation. You don't think China and Russia know that we're nowhere near our needed recruitment levels right now? 3 of the 4 service branches failed to recruit enough service members through 2023. The Army's short 10,000 soldiers. That's a 20% shortfall. But at least they're on top of your preferred pronouns.
Hi, my name is Johnny, and I use he, him pronouns.
Hi, and I'm Conchi, and I use she, her pronouns.
And we're here to talk about pronouns. Using the right pronouns is a really simple way to affirm someone's identity. It is a signal of acceptance and respect.
If it's a signal of acceptance and respect, how do we go about creating a safe space for everybody?
A safe space for our military. Now, military leaders should be just laser beam focused on defending America's interests. But instead, we've seen this over the years, they waste time on pet issues of the hard left.
I would also say that diversity, equity, and inclusion is important to this military now, and it will be important in the future.
On the issue of critical race theory, et cetera, I do think it's important, actually, for those of us in uniform to be open-minded and be widely read. And I want to understand white rage, and I'm white, and I want to understand it.
He will never, ever live that down. Meanwhile, they can't even account for the billions that they spend. An audit just last month showed that they can't be sure at the Pentagon of the $1.1 billion and the Ukraine supplemental funds, that they can't be sure they were used as intended. No biggie. Of course, some are stuck in a nostalgic trance about our military capability.
The United States military is stronger today than any time since World War II. We are an extraordinarily powerful, battle-hardened country, fought in Iraq and fought in Afghanistan. We have seen what's happened in Ukraine over the past 2 years or so. We have learned a hell of a lot from it. You talk to anybody across the world, they will tell you just how strong we are.
Okay. Huh? Now, repeated tabletop run-throughs of potential conflicts show that America is repeatedly losing to China. The former lawmakers, military leaders, policy experts on the Commission on the National Defense Strategy gave us grim news. Unclassified public war games suggest that in a conflict with China, the U.S. would largely exhaust its munitions inventories in as few as 3 to 4 weeks, with some important munitions, anti-ship missiles, lasting only a few days. Once expended, replacing these munitions would take years. That is the truth about our current capability. So right now, we are not safe. The world isn't safe if our military is not seen as a credible deterrent. That has to change. And President Trump obviously thinks that an outsider who is not beholden to the old guard has the best shot at accomplishing this. Plus, we know President Trump obviously wants his picks to be effective communicators, especially given how much opposition his agenda is going to face from the same people who got us into the mess we're in. Now, how this all plays out, it's anyone's guess. But the defense establishment has no one to blame but itself for the mess that we find ourselves in. And fixing this, man, this is not going to be easy. But we do know that those with the perfect D.C. resumes have repeatedly failed to keep us safe and to advance America's military interests. And that is the angle.
He's back. Donald Trump returned to D.C. today, and his first meeting was with Congress.
Well, thank you very much. This is a very nice gathering. Isn't it nice to win? It's nice to win. It's always nice to win. A lot of good friends in this room. So you know we had like historic kind of numbers, especially for the president, but we won't get into that.
His whole entourage was there. Elon Musk got a standing O.
Elon has been celebrated.
Behind closed doors, Trump joked, Elon won't go home. I can't get rid of him. The next stop was the White House. Biden-Harris staffers raced away from their desks to watch history turn the page.
It's really stunning. Those are Biden staffers. They're in the EOB. Some of them are lower level, some of them perhaps a little bit higher. But they're there to watch a history moment being made that nobody standing there wanted.
Joe Biden was just as giddy as his staff.
Donald, congratulations. Thank you. And looking forward to having like we said, smooth transition. Do everything we can to make sure you're accommodated, what you need. And we're going to get a chance to talk about some of that today. So
good.
Welcome.
Thank you
back.
very much. And thank you very much. And politics is tough. And it's, in many cases, not a very nice world, but it is a nice world today, and I appreciate very much a transition that's so smooth. It'll be as smooth as it can get, and I very much appreciate that, Jim.
You're welcome.
Biden seemed relieved to be passing the torch to Don the dictator. Since Kamala lost, we've never seen Joe happier. How do you arrest a guy, call him Hitler, and almost get him killed, and then when he wins, you invite him over for coffee? I don't know what goes on in Joe's little head. He doesn't either. These two guys met for almost 2 hours, and Trump says we got to know each other again. Telling the Post, quote, I asked for his views, and he gave them to me. He was very gracious, and it was a really good meeting. Binder says it was downright chummy.
Did he get a sense that the issues that he was impressing upon, that any advice he was giving was being well received?
I think so. I think that's why the president was wanting me to let you all know that there was a very good back and forth. Look, they met for more than 2 hours. They met for a very long time, or nearly 2 hours, pardon me. And I think by the length of the meeting tells you that they had an in-depth conversation on an array of issues.
We hear they talked a lot about the Mideast, but what else?
The last time these two were together in the same room was at the debate. They talked a fair amount about playing golf. Do you know if a plan was made for them to play golf in President Biden's retirement?
Actually, that's not the last time they saw each other. They saw each other at September 11th. I'm going to move on.
Dr. Jill even popped by to hand Trump a handwritten letter from Melania, who couldn't make it. And she gave the dictator a nice warm smile. Kamala just got the cold shoulder. Not everybody in the White House was as happy as the Bidens. An unnamed Biden official reacting to the meeting with, "What the F?" Democrats wanted Biden to be a bridge to the next generation, but he was just a roundabout, right back to Trump. Now Trump's back in Washington with an overwhelming mandate, and the Democrats are squabbling and totally shut out of power. In a secret ballot, Senate Republicans picked John Thune of North Dakota to be Senate Majority Leader. Mitch McConnell's retiring, and Trump's cabinet will get a fair shake and a fast track.
We will do everything we can to process his noms quickly, get them installed in their position so they can begin to implement his agenda.
We learned today Tulsi Gabbard has been tapped for Director of National Intelligence, DNI. That's a big role, and she'll be on the show in a minute. And here's a surprise. Florida Congressman Matt Gaetz has been selected to be Trump's Attorney General. Gaetz is a sharp-tongued lawyer who sat on the House Judiciary Committee, is tangled with Democrats and Republicans, and shines a spotlight on government corruption and weaponization.
Seems like every time I turn around, they're engaged in surveillance or list building or monitoring, and I don't care if it takes every second of our time and every ounce of our energy. We either get this government back on our side or we defund and get rid of, abolish the FBI, CDC, ATF, DOJ, every last one of them if they do not come to heel.
Gaetz is controversial because of some personal allegations that Biden's Justice Department hung over his head but never prosecuted. We expect the Democrats to treat him like trash and turn his hearing into the Salem witch trials. Some are already squishy, these Republicans, and he can't afford more than a few no's. Donald Trump can not allow his own Justice Department to sabotage his presidency again. No more Robert Muellers. Matt Gaetz wouldn't put up with another coup. The Attorney General has to be trusted. It's why Obama picked Holder. It's why JFK picked his own brother. Trump's been shot, impeached twice, spied on, and had his wife's underwear drawer rummaged through by feds. His calculation is that Gaetz will run a clean shop and sniff out any shenanigans before they spread. The pace of Trump's cabinet picks, with a few curveballs, has heads spinning.
What's the buzz on the Hill right now?
Well, I mean, I hope you don't forgive me for saying this, Kristen, but the general vibe on the Hill right now is WTF.
When Washington heard Pete Hegseth would be the next defense secretary, it caught him off guard. Defense lobbyists were leaking, who the F is this guy? And the media can't believe it.
Your president is moving quickly to fill the clown car and round out his cabinet. He has selected Fox Weekend morning show host, you can't make this up, Pete Hegseth, to serve as Secretary of Defense, because why not?
Co-host of Fox and Friends Weekend. Not even like regular. Weekend. Pete Hegseth? Hegseth?
Yeah.
Okay.
Obviously, it's weird, and there's only one reason he's doing it, because he's on Fox News.
I don't necessarily know if acumen is top of mind when picking these people.
So Pete's a decorated Army combat vet who did tours in Iraq and Afghanistan and has fought for veterans for years. He hasn't been corrupted by decades in Washington. He wasn't made by the machine. He's got a fresh set of eyes and a clear vision for the Pentagon. It's not like he's going to let Chinese spy balloons fly across the country or leave billions of dollars in military hardware in the Taliban's hands or make the Iranians and the drug cartels filthy rich and watch a land war erupt in Europe or anything. We can definitely tell you that Hegseth isn't going to have drag queen story hours on Army bases and DEI classes at West Point. I guarantee you, Pete won't spend a week in the hospital and hide it from the commander-in-chief. Democrats are suddenly obsessed with specific qualifications after telling us merit didn't matter. All that mattered was your race and gender. Well, Pete's a straight white male with a lot of kids. Is that going to be a problem? Biden stacked his administration with people like Mayor Pete's and Binders, Rachel Levine's and Sticky Sammy's. Pete's plenty qualified. Tim Walz was about to be a heartbeat away from the presidency, and he lied about being in combat. Pete Hegseth was in gunfights in Iraq and Afghanistan, has 2 Bronze Stars. I'd rather have him in the Situation Room than Tampon Tim. Trump's picking stars he can trust to watch his back and enact his agenda. And they're rolling them out fast and fun. The country senses it's on the precipice of massive change, and we're excited. And I'm not just saying that because I know the entire cabinet and that I'll be asking for special favors. Probably inappropriate, but doesn't hurt to ask. Democrats aren't scared of Hitler coming back to town. If they were, Biden wouldn't be smiling. They're scared that his renegade cabinet is going to expose how rotten they all are and turn things around so fast that Americans are going to realize what's possible. A new golden age isn't just a slogan, it's a promise. Trump's victory and these cabinet picks are raising our expectations because we deserve to have our expectations raised. This is the greatest country on the face of the earth with the best land and the brightest people. We shouldn't settle. The government works for us, not the other way around. That's what makes us free. And if Trump and his team can revolutionize the way Washington works and actually get it to work, the sky's the limit. And the mediocre culture of Washington will be stigmatized forever. Working on the Hill your whole life, at think tanks or pushing papers for the State Department, getting nothing done for the good of the people except padding your resume, backstabbing your enemies, and racking up debt. If Trump succeeds, the days when those guys, them ruling, are over. The Democrats are starting to realize what's about to hit them, and they're warning Republicans, don't be too bold. Have mercy.
To my Republican colleagues, I offer a word of caution in good faith. Take care not to misread the will of the people, and do not abandon the need for bipartisanship. After winning an election, the temptation may be to go to the extreme. We've seen that happen over the decades, and it's consistently backfired on the party in power.
Now that's Rich coming from the party that was elected to beat COVID, but just rammed through $20 trillion on windmills and sex changes. Schumer can take a back seat this time. We don't need his help. What an exciting time to be alive.
And welcome to Hannity. And tonight we are at the end of another huge day for the incoming Trump administration. The brand new Department of Government Efficiency is in full gear with Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy leading the way. Coming up, Vivek will join us. He will be here for an exclusive interview. Also, House Speaker Mike Johnson will be here after a big endorsement from President Trump and unanimous support from House Republicans who just renominated him as Speaker. We're also going to show you the president-elect's triumphant return to the White House. But first, more huge nominations are now rocking the Washington swamp. Breaking only moments ago, we learned that Florida Senator, my Senator Marco Rubio, has officially been picked for Secretary of State. Meanwhile, former Democratic Congresswoman turned Republican Tulsi Gabbard was nominated as the Director of National Intelligence. And the third pick of the day is causing a bit of, let's call, collective radical left-wing meltdown among elites in Washington. On Truth Social, President Trump announced that Florida Congressman Matt Gaetz has been tapped to serve as the next U.S. Attorney General, the head of the DOJ. Now, Matt Gaetz is a lawyer, 4-term congressman, longtime ally of Donald Trump, who aggressively helped expose political weaponization at the DOJ of Harris and Biden. So naturally, the pearl-clutching, breathless hysteria on the left has been nonstop. It's gotten bad. Take a look.
Well, Katie, I've gotten 2 different texts from different people at the Justice Department who just used the word insane to respond and react to this potential appointment.
Heads are also exploding at the Justice Department because this goes against the kind of candidate, Republican or Democrat, that the DOJ sees as an appropriate candidate.
And this is making everyone's head explode right now as we're all watching it unfold in real time. And I'm sure we'll have a lot more opinions on that.
Matt Gaetz has no experience that would lend itself towards running the Department of Justice and everything that's involved there.
President Trump is going to hit the Justice Department with a blowtorch, and Matt Gaetz is that torch.
We are in pure George Orwell 1984 land where, they say black is white and we're supposed to believe it.
So Merrick Garland and Obama's wingman Eric Holder are fine, and the guy who, along with Congressman Jim Jordan, was fighting tooth and nail to stop lawfare and the weaponization of the DOJ is being opposed by the very people that were either complicit or just downright silent. They're now outraged. My question to everyone tonight, where was the righteous indignation over Obama's wingmen? Eric Holder, the guy that vowed to, when they go low, you kick them. You might recall this. Take a look.
Michelle Obama, I love her, She and my wife, really tight, which always scares me and Barack. But Michelle always says that, when they go low, we go high. No. When they go low, we kick them. That's what this new Democratic Party is about.
Obama's AG wingman, Eric Holder. Of course, that's nothing compared to his actions in office. Where was the outrage over Holder's? Remember the Mexican gun-running scheme that led to the murder of a U.S. Border Patrol agent? Where was the hysteria over Holder's secret federal surveillance of reporters at the AP, and the Fox News Channel? That seems awfully relevant to the legacy media, right? Did anyone in the state-run media mob, did they ever speak out against the FISA abuse, the weaponization of justice against Donald Trump from 2016 on? What about the DOJ's witch hunt based on, Russian disinformation that was bought and paid for by Hillary Clinton? That was the basis of those FISA warrants. That dirty Russian disinformation dossier, that was used as the bulk of information to secure 4 FISA warrant applications to spy on candidate Trump, his transition team, and President Trump. Did anyone at the state-run legacy media mob ever condemn this, ever? No, the opposite occurred. They peddled these lies and conspiracy theories for 3 years. By the way, no wonder they've had no impact in this last election cycle. No wonder Americans do not and should not trust them. Did any Democrats or legacy media people lose sleep over the documented widespread anti-Trump bias at the DOJ, the FBI? Where was the moral panic over the scheme to pre-bunk what was the very true Hunter Biden laptop story? We had 51 former Intel officials never had to explain a thing. They never examined Hunter's laptop. They never saw Hunter's laptop. They didn't know a thing about Hunter's laptop, but they all in unison were proclaiming, looks like Russian disinformation, only a few weeks before an election that, according to polls, had an impact on the outcome of the 2020 election. Were they ever held accountable? No. To this day, does anyone in the media mob care that it was Tony Blinken that organized the disinformation campaign of the 51 former Intel officials? No. What about the unequal system of justice? Let's see. Wasn't Mar-a-Lago raided over the issue of top-secret classified documents? But didn't Joe Biden and Hillary Clinton, didn't they just get a little polite talking to after having troves of top-secret classified document, in Joe's case, in 4 separate locations, and Hillary Clinton? Why weren't their homes raided? Does that seem like equal justice under the law? How come Hillary Clinton can destroy 33,000 subpoenaed emails, we'd never heard of it before, with BleachBit, and then destroy devices with hammers and remove SIM cards, and nobody in the Democratic Party, not one person, nobody in the legacy media mob, they never cared a whit. They didn't care at all. They hid it. They defended it. Anyone on the left concerned that a former president, current presidential candidate, got hit with 34 stacked felony charges based on this ridiculous novel legal theory after the statute of limitations were long past, brought by a left-wing attorney general who campaigned on getting Donald Trump? Did they ever speak out about that? What about Catholics and angry parents that show up at school board meetings that were labeled extremists and terrorists or potential terrorists? Why were peaceful pro-life protesters, why were they targeted? Over the past decade, we have witnessed spying, censorship, lawfare, corruption, intimidation, extreme political bias, all from the Harris-Biden DOJ. And, of course, you got James Comey. You had the whole Mueller investigation, 3 long years, Russia, 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 the state-run media mob. They're now only worried about Matt Gaetz. This is feigned, selective, moral outrage, and, frankly, it's ridiculous. Now, for years, the DOJ and the FBI and the Washington field office have been totally, completely out of control. We have been chronicling this regularly. They have had a get Trump by any means necessary mentality. And the American people, 8 days ago, you saw through all of it. You didn't listen to the media, the celebrity endorsements, the people putting on the concerts for Kamala Harris, because they have no impact. They have so overreached so often, people are sick of it. And now they've completely lost the trust of more than half of the country. And now change is coming to Washington, change that was promised. And despite his time in Congress, Gaetz is not a Washington insider. Nobody would call him that. He is not well liked by the city's swamp creatures. That might be a plus in my book. But does he have an unyielding, fearless ability to disrupt the status quo, whether you agree or disagree? And this is exactly why he became Donald Trump's pick for Attorney General. Again, this is not business as usual. After last week's election, Donald Trump has a mandate to reform what I call these once great institutions, to end once and for all the weaponization of justice in America, to restore principles that I and so many of you hold near and dear to your heart: equal justice under the law, equal application of our laws, flush out the political bias at the DOJ, the FBI, in our intelligence community, restore these departments, these agencies to their original missions, not political, and their former greatness. The FBI used to be formerly one of the greatest law enforcement agency on earth. Our intelligence community, the greatest on earth. We've got to get them back to where they were. Now, as conservatives, we deeply believe in these principles. And what has been done to Donald Trump over 9 years and to Republicans can and should never, ever, ever happen to any American, Democrat or Republican, ever again. In other words, Republicans, they must pledge to never do to Democrats what was done to them and what was done to Donald Trump and what was done to Trump allies. And today, after years of lawfare and 2 attempts on his life and nonstop media outrage and comparisons to Hitler and Stalin and Mussolini, Donald Trump returned to the White House for a meeting with Joe Biden in what could be a sign of things to come. The meeting apparently went very well. Joe Biden was all smiles as the 45th, 46th, and 47th president exchanged kind words. Take a look.
Well, Mr. President-elect and former President, thank you, Donald, congratulations. Thank you. And looking forward to having like we said, a smooth transition. Do everything we can to make sure you're accommodated, what you need. And we're going to get a chance to talk about some of that today. So good. Welcome
Thank you
back.
very much. And thank you very much. And politics is tough. And it's, in many cases, not a very nice world, but it is a nice world today, and I appreciate it very much. And a transition that's so smooth, it'll be as smooth as it can get, and I very much appreciate that, Jim.
You're welcome. Thank you all.
President Trump told the New York Post that Biden was very gracious, that it was very enjoyable, the meeting, and based on White House pictures, Joe and Jill Biden seemed very happy to see Donald Trump. And the First Lady even reportedly handed Trump a handwritten letter for his wife, Melania, welcoming her back to the White House. Now, keep in mind, just this week, The vibes were kind of different when Jill and Kamala were seated next to each other at a Veterans Day event, as you can see right there. Make no mistake, it is a new era in the Washington swamp, and it appears, and I hope it's true, that Trump will have a new ally in the U.S. Senate, the newly minted Majority Leader, John Thune. He is pledging to work to get the president's agenda through. Time will tell. Here's what he said.
It's a new day in the United States Senate, and it's a new day in America. The American people have loudly rejected the failed policies of the Biden, Harris, Schumer agenda. And this Republican team is united. We are on one team. We are excited to reclaim the majority and to get to work with our colleagues in the House to enact President Trump's agenda. We have a mandate from the American people, a mandate not only to clean up the mess left by the Biden, Harris, Schumer agenda, but also to deliver on President Trump's priorities.
Time is short. There's a lot of work to be done, but now is the time for Republicans to work together and get Donald Trump's agenda across the finish line.
I think my face My face is paralyzed. It is. Happy Wednesday, everybody. So President-elect Trump has nominated our very own Pete Hegseth. Never heard of him. But first Lee Zeldin and now Pete. It feels like they're stealing my guests. Who's next? Steve Doocy for Secretary of Whiteness? Judge Jeanine for Secretary of Pistol Whipping? Brian Kilmeade as Loneliness Czar? Joe Biden and Donald Trump met in the Oval Office today. Joe complimented Trump on overcoming many obstacles that he's also faced, like stairs. Trump, of course, left the meeting with new insight about which carpets need to be cleaned. But I would have loved to have been a fly on that wall. Huh? Beats competing with the ones buzzing around Joe's head. CNN is rumored to be laying off its top stars. I was just talking about this on my way to work this morning with my Uber driver. Don Lemon announced he's quitting Twitter. Oh. I learned that from my other Uber driver. During an episode of The View, Joy Behar gifted Whoopi a lasagna for her birthday. Joy said giving away that lasagna was the most difficult decision of her life. Dick Van Dyke, who turns 99 this month, said he's grateful that he won't be around to experience President Trump's second term. Yeah, I said that the first time, said one man. Poor guy. Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy will head up the Department of Government Efficiency. Government workers wishing to help can submit their resignations.
There we go.
Good show. It was a good show. Finally, People magazine has revealed its sexiest man alive, actor John Krasinski. Better luck next year, Randy Weingarten. All right. Terrible. Terrible. All right. So Donald Trump is yet to take office, and he's already making an impact. And not just on China, Russia, and Dr. Jill's plans for installing bedside commodes at the White House. No, Trump is also decimating cable news. MSNBC ratings have plummeted since he won. It's so bad, Joy Reid's wigs are looking for work at Jesse Watters' primetime. CNN's numbers are so far down, they're getting beaten nightly by Brit Hume's doorbell cam. Hundreds of layoffs are apparently on the way. And I know that it's mean, but it would be hilarious if CNN fires Brian Stelter a second time. And the poor guy just installed a shelf for his pies. It's so bad for mainstream media that Chris Wallace has left CNN to start a podcast. He's 77. Think about it. He's leaving legacy media at age 77 because he's certain that even he's going to outlive it.
Yes.
But sadly, even Fox News is feeling the pinch. And it's not our ratings. I got millions of new eyeballs, and that's not including the ones I keep in a sack under my bed. Donald Trump's taking all of our talent. He just announced that the great Tulsi Gabbard is his nominee for the Director of National Intelligence. Lee Zeldin, maybe the new head of the EPA. Mike Huckabee, the new ambassador to Israel. And boy, does the Middle East need some relaxium. Of course, Hegseth is the new Secretary of Defense, we hope, but as expected, as Trump loads up his cabinet with renegades and badasses, the left is melting down. They simply can't believe Trump's putting in place real people, the kind that are loyal to America, and not the usual suspects you find on jets to Epstein Island. And sure, they're triggered by Hegseth. Here's why. That's it. I'm gay. Again.
Not a big shock, was there?
Please.
A lot of mouths on the floor right now. What?
Yeah, stop it. But here's your expected hissy fit to Hegseth's nomination.
Pete Hegseth for Defense Secretary. What do you think?
I'm shocked, truly, and this is exactly what we worried about and we warned about Donald Trump, which is that he is going to appoint unqualified loyalists to shape this government into his own personal fiefdom.
The pick was a surprise on Capitol Hill, where one senator literally said, wow.
In the pre-Trump world, it would be impossible for a Pete Hegseth to get through the Senate confirmation process for any job in government. They will have no problem voting for any ridiculous, incompetent Trump appointee.
Ugh. You know what's really bothering these idiots? Well, first, Pete Hegseth is a man, obviously. Not so obvious, Biden's choices. I mean, talk about transparency in government. When you see our men, they're not hiding behind a skirt or stealing them. Pete was way ahead of everyone else on the decline of our fighting forces. He was the first, most persuasive voice bent on preserving the lethality of our forces, which was under attack from within, thanks to the scourge of identity politics. Identity politics did three things to the military. It undermined meritocracy, the necessary ingredient for commanding a lethal force. It splintered the fighting forces into competing self-interests. And it put targets on troops who resisted, branding them as extremists who warranted investigation. No wonder the media is using the appeal to authority fallacy to smear Hegseth. Who is this guy, they mutter. Well, he's a two-time Bronze Star winner. I've got 3. And he's been in the service for decades. And he's the guy who's about to kick your asses to the curb. But Pete's not the only one who will force useless careerists to update their resumes. Trump just announced that Elon and Vivek will be heading a new commission known as the Department of Government Efficiency. So that vast sucking sound you hear is the sound of the swamp finally being drained. It's either that or I just ate Indian food. I apologize. So how bad will it be? Well, when Musk took over Twitter, he reportedly fired 80% of his personnel inside the first month, which explains why on the way to work this morning, I saw Mayor Pete pumping gas at a Sunoco station. Now, if you think that firing 80% of the federal workforce is going too far, you might be right. It takes 15 workers each day just to fasten Jerry Nadler's pants. I know, it's worth it. Thank you. But America's debt is $35 trillion. That's a 35 with 12 zeros. That's as many zeros as Kat's dating history. We've got one shot here to save what has been the greatest experiment in government and human freedom of all time. And I get the feeling we're about to see more changes in a single administration than we've seen in Pelosi's face. And this time it's going to be stuff that people actually want and need and actually voted for. No wonder it's going to be carried out by people from a cable news network that people actually love. Let's welcome tonight's guest. She once co-hosted The View and still can't get the smell off her shoe. Host of the Michelle Tafoya podcast, Michelle Tafoya. Even RFK Jr. is like, what's the deal with his voice? Comedian Jim Florentine. She wants to have more babies and then cure her rabies. New York Times bestselling author and Fox News contributor, Gutfeld. And he holds his pants up with Orion's belt. New York Times bestselling author, comedian, and former heavyweight world champion. So, Michelle, I can't get the smile off my face, and it's already, it's Wednesday. I still feel great with all these new faces. What do you think what are you expecting?
There's something in business called innovative disruption. And so people got really excited and bold and started, I'm a disruptor. I'm going to go take this business down, disrupt and rebuild. But they don't like it when it's happening to government that they think they can predict, that they've been in control of for all of this time. So they don't like this innovative disruption stuff. This is weird. This is beautiful, man. This is beautiful. Here's two parts. The Pete Hegseth thing reminds me, sorry, I got to go to the NFL here, but I'm going to go with the Niners so you can probably relate.
Right.
When the San Francisco 49ers hired GM John Lynch out of the broadcast booth, he was with Fox Sports, the NFL people were going, this guy, well, he has no front office experience. What are they doing? What? Well, he's gone on to make the 49ers back into the juggernaut they once were, right? So they forgot that he also had a Hall of Fame playing career. That's kind of like Pete Hegseth. They're saying he's a host. He's a news host from Fox. Well, what about the Bronze Stars and the Princeton and the Harvard and all the other stuff that Pete Hegseth has done? And yet he is young. And yes, thank you. He's going to clean things up and get this DEI crap out of there. As for Elon and Vivek, I cannot wait to watch this. That DOGE, they already have a Twitter feed, and I've been watching it all day, and the followers just keep going up and up. They're up to about 500,000 right now, and they just started this page today. People are excited about this stuff.
Yeah, it's definitely great. I have to make a correction. I said I had 3 Bronze Stars. I do have them, but only in the summertime when I wear those stickers. Jim, you've been fired a bunch of times, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So how do you feel about this efficiency consortium coming on and just getting rid of the fat?
It's ironic that they have 2 people when they're trying to be efficient with the government. You probably only need 1 for that role.
Yes, that's true.
No, I think it's going to be great. And then, then they're crying about Pete.
Yeah.
They're like, Trump's only picking people he likes and that are loyal to him. Yeah, that's what you do.
Yes.
You don't pick your mortal enemies. I don't remember anyone in the Biden cabinet walking around with a Let's Go Brandon shirt on.
Yeah. It's a great point. It's like, he's a loyalist. Well, that's how it works. Yeah, especially with Trump. Trump just got shot at and almost assassinated twice. I think he deserves loyalists around him.
Yeah.
You know? Thank you. It was a good point.
I'm really happy for Pete. Pete used to live in my neighborhood, and my son would play flag football with his son. And when Pete would show up to the game, none of the moms watched the flag football.
Oh, yeah.
They were just staring at him. It was like a movie star came.
Yeah.
I didn't even start staring at him. I couldn't help it.
It's really dangerous. Women can get pregnant just by staring at him.
Ooh.
Cat. I'm not making any inferences.
Hey, to take a Fox News host, so maybe they can make you the ambassador like Turks and Caicos, so you do the show right on the beach.
I would like to be the ambassador to the Vatican.
You keep around making these jokes, you're going to have a job, Greg.
I know.
Yeah, they can't. We're safe here, I think. Kat, what do you make of all this? Are you going to miss Pete?
Yeah, well, Pete's a friend, right? And so I definitely will miss Pete. But I think I really enjoyed reading that Politico article about how horrible it was that Trump picked Pete. Just because of the people that they quoted in that article. They quoted, a defense industry lobbyist. They quoted the the top policy official in the Pentagon during the Bush administration. Like, oh, if that guy thinks it's a bad idea, he's worried Pete's not going to try hard enough to find those weapons of mass destruction. People don't, God forbid they have somebody, and then Elizabeth Warren, right, she tweets about him, a Fox and Friends weekend host, doesn't mention that he's a veteran, let alone that he has decades of combat experience, multiple decades of combat experience. God forbid you put someone in that role that has experience fighting the wars instead of making money off of the wars. That's not an argument for why I think it's a bad idea.
It's funny, if Liz had any of that combat experience, she would have it on her resume like she was an Indian.
Well, listen.
And she deliberately omits his. Go ahead.
Listen, nobody is more afraid when Liz Warren starts beating the war drum. I think we have to consider the sources, okay? This is the same group that talked about this super tight election that was looking really good, and they were so excited it was going to go their way, and boy, wrong is not even the right term. They're so wrong that CNN and MSNBC are like, hey, maybe we should just go back to the news.
Yeah.
Because this DNC sucks.
Yeah.
Everything about them through this whole process is as bad as Kamala's budgeting her can. How do you go 20 million over when you got $1 billion?
Yeah.
And then and that was going to balance the budget?
Yeah.
Pete is boots on the ground. Pete knows, he still talks to his buddies he served with on a regular basis. Pete knows the struggle that veterans go through. Pete knows how this works. He knows the fake. And they should be afraid of a person like Pete. They should be afraid of Vivek, because all of these guys don't need the job.
Right.
See, that's the same thing with President Trump that bothered him. That's what started with the swamp and the crazy narratives, is that they will have no allegiance to them.
Pete didn't he's going to take a pay cut.
Yeah, trust me. I was all about press secretary until I saw the pay. I could do that. I could do that from right here. I can put a little booth. We do a little segment, honorary, because of the pay, but because they don't need it. That's the biggest fear of, and there's going to be a lot of firings, and we're going to stop seeing a thing where they have to pay groups of senators and congressmen to make committees to discuss the idea of finding ideas to fix things. We're going to cut all that out, so it's either going to be put up or get out. And hopefully, like I said, with the sizable amount that he's on the Senate, this should be a great time for term limits. So you'll have more people like Elon and Pete, and the people that don't need the job other than just want the service and aren't trying to pick up a couple bucks while they're there.
And also Tulsi, who was just on 2 days ago, and she wouldn't tell me, but I knew it. I knew it, Tulsi!
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.